What is up, my guys? Remaster Flex here. I'm here with my second part of WrestleMania on night two. I didn't think it'd be possible. I didn't know if I was going to do a part two because of school, but let's get started. So first up, you started night two out with Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley for the Raw. Oh God, excuse me. For the NXT Women's Championship. Now, after this match, I may not go in order with these matches. The match itself was pretty good. It was a pretty decent match. I mean, Charlotte worked a lot on Rhea Ripley's leg. I was shocked to see that Rhea Ripley actually hit a riptide in the very beginning of the match. She hit a riptide in, which was very surprising. And I thought it would have been over there, but Charlotte worked a lot on the knees, and we saw a lot of good spots from Rhea Ripley. We've seen Charlotte just do a lot of submissions to Rhea Ripley in this. Even Rhea had Charlotte in her submission hold, so it was definitely a lot of submissions done in this match. And yeah, I mean, Charlotte ended up winning the NXT Women's Championship. At first, I thought I was really wondering why would they take the belt off Rhea after she just dethroned, Shayna Baszler, who had held the NXT Women's Championship for so long, and she dethroned her in December at the end of last year. Why would she lose the belt this soon? But from recent reports of what I've heard over this week, is that one of the reasons that led to that is because of her VS card or something expiring for her coming to the States from her living in Australia. Now, I think there's a little bit more to that. Obviously, it's pretty obvious that, you know, they're trying to make Charlotte have a bunch of women title rings. I mean, it's pretty obvious from what I'm hearing. As the NXT Women's Champion, she's going to be jumping from NXT and Raw, which kind of defeats the purpose of a brand split to be doing that. But it's interesting because Leo Shirai won the women's the ladder match this past Wednesday to determine number one contender. So it makes me wonder if Leo's going to actually win the belt or if Charlotte's going to dethrone her. Because if that's the case, it just will not look bright for the NXT women if Charlotte, who's actually hasn't been a full time member of NXT within like the last since like 6 years ago or so was the last time she was NXT Women's Champion. And like I said, the match itself, a lot of submissions, a lot of working on the legs that Charlotte did to Rhea here. Um, but fortunately, um, you know, definitely I was rooting for Rhea here, and the same way how I didn't understand why Becky retained her title, even though I love Becky, I didn't understand why she retained it, given that she was talking about taking a break. It's the same way how I didn't understand this, but now looking at what they said, and then looking at just how Vince is with trying to have Charlotte have all these women title rings, obviously, as much as her father, obviously, or whatever. Don't get me wrong, she's a great athlete, but it's pretty obvious what's being done here. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. Charlotte picked up the victory. She's an NXT champion. We did not see her on NXT this past Wednesday. They just showed a recap of what she said after she won the belt at WrestleMania. And they showed uh, Rhea Ripley crying after losing the belt at WrestleMania, but they didn't actually show her come out in the ring at NXT. So, there you go. That. Next up, we have Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley. Now, same thing I said on night one with Corbin and Elias. I thought this match should have been on the pre-show because there was absolutely no build to it. But definitely the story of this match, and it seems to be the story of a lot of Aleister Black matches lately on pay-per-views. It seems like it's not. It seems like he's not the focus. Like when you look at the Elimination Chamber with match with AJ Styles, they had that match, but the whole focus was really on AJ and the Undertaker. He was the one who won because the Undertaker, coming out and choking and attacking Karen Anderson and Luke Gallows, but he wasn't the focus. The same thing here. I mean, it's pretty obvious that what they're doing is finally slowly putting an end to this whole relationship with Lana and Bobby that's been going on for months. I mean, at first it was a whole love triangle between her, Rusev, and Bobby, and of course, Liv Morgan was joined for a short period of time before they completely took her out the picture. And you know, Rusev was constantly losing to Bobby Lashley, and now Rusev is trying to opt out of his contract, which is why we haven't seen him. And so sometimes we'll see Lana with Bobby, and sometimes we don't. Like I said, the match, it was what it was. Uh, Aleister Black looked really good in the match. He hit some moonsaults. He did some, even Bobby. I like the belly to belly he did with him outside of the ring. I also like the power slam he hit on Aleister Black. So it looks decent for what it was. Of course, once Bobby was gonna, it looked like he was going for the Dominator, and then Lana just tells him, screams. She screamed a lot throughout this match. And she screams go for the spear. He runs to try to hit the spear, and then he gets hit with a black mass. So the finish to me was pretty obvious. Like I called it with my wrestling buddy when I was watching it. One of the friends I was looking at, we were watching it. I was like, "Watch, he's gonna say it, or he's gonna go for the spear, and then he's gonna get hit with the black mass." So I mean, it was pretty obvious how that was gonna pay out. Story of this match really is just that they're slowly breaking up Lana and Bobby Lashley at some point. Which I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, the story it it went dead a long time ago. I mean, even before Rusev was out of it, the wedding was probably the last major time people was actually talking about this, the wedding that they had. But even then, like after that, like it's kind of just went dead because they kept having Rusev lose, and then Lana defeated Liv Morgan at one point, and then Liv Morgan defeated Lana, and the next thing you know, they just completely took Liv Morgan out and put her in the whole thing with the Riot Squad, leading to Elimination Chamber. So it's just it's just crazy. But Aleister Black picked up the win. It would be nice to see them actually have Aleister Black in the feud. Mostly, a lot of these matches he's been in on pay per view, at least for the last two, I wouldn't even really consider them feuds. It's just more like, yeah, he started something for it to happen, but then, next thing he's kind of back to facing people. Like, even his match with Apollo Crews on Raw was incredible, but there's not really any build there. So next up, you have all right, next up you had Otis versus Dolph Ziggler. You know, man, I really, compared to, there's a lot of reasons why the Lana Rusev love triangle, Lana Rusev and Bobby Wyatt died down, you know, but this one, definitely a lot more intrigued by here. You know, Otis, had a decent match with Dolph Ziggler here. Dolph Ziggler came out with Sandra Deville on his side, and then Manny comes out, slaps Sandra Deville, and then low blows basically Dolph Ziggler to help Otis win, and then he picks her up and they celebrate and they kiss after she discovered that basically the whole texting late thing was just a scheme for Andre to get Manny to be with Dolph Ziggler instead of Otis. It was just a way for them to not let that happen. The whole hacker revealed what really happened on Valentine's Day because on Valentine's Day, I was 2 weeks prior to that. Otis asked her out. She said she wasn't available, but she was on Valentine's Day. He gets a text saying that she's going to be late, but it's really not her to send the text. She walks out the room. Sandra sends the text, and then he, you know, ends up coming late, but Dolph Ziggler's already there. He throws the flowers down, and then from there, Dolph Ziggler teases him for a bunch of pics of Mandy, and Mandy would, they would show some clips of her looking backstage, and once she saw from the hacker what really happened, which I really like how they did it because they kept having, the hacker saying, "I told you I would tell the truth" or something like that, and then, sorry guys about that, and then it happened, and Mandy was upset. This match, it was what it was. It was kind of not, not match quality wise, it wasn't like the best or anything like that, but it looked a really decent storytelling here, really decent match, and we just saw it happen on SmackDown today, actually, of how Dolph Ziggler, how Tucker came out and showed pictures of Mandy and Otis. He had a match with Dolph Ziggler, of course. Dolph Ziggler won the match, and yeah, so Otis picked up the win, and now he has a girl. And from what I've heard that they are dating in real life. I'm not too sure if that's actually true, but I heard somewhere that they're actually going out. So if that's the case, then I guess that would make sense to put them as an on-screen couple. But of course, we're hearing next week that Sandra's supposed to come to. She's supposed to try to confront her friend and get Manny back. So that's going to be interesting. There's something I always thought about the storyline that hasn't happened yet. I'm pretty sure some of you guys have also had the same thought as far as Sandra's concerned. So next up, you had Edge versus Orton, Randy Orton. Definitely one of the best build-up matches to the show. This match, the promos were on fire between both Orton and Edge. Orton tried to say that he basically tried to help Edge because he didn't want because if he didn't end it for Edge, someone else would have. Someone else would have ended Edge's career coming back. He didn't want Edge to think that he was coming back full time. It was that moment of the Royal Rumble was just a one time thing. And Edge is like, you don't care about me. You're jealous because someone like me had to work for everything that I have done, and for you, you didn't have to. And then Orton's like, when I won these titles, where they handed to me, when I became the youngest world heavyweight champion, when I did this, and that was that handed to me. So they both use different terms of grit. So definitely, uh, the promos were on point. The match itself, it was a long match. The commentators definitely didn't help from the constant pausing that was going on in the match. Of course, you had that one controversial spot where Orton pulled Edge's through the weights, which was you know going back to the whole thing with Kristen Law. But aside from that, which I don't even agree that should have been done, but aside from that, the match, definitely was long. You had a lot of spots here. I think that with the way that they ended it, I could kind of see why, because this is a last man standing match. I kind of see why the way they ended it, that it was so long. It was about 35 minutes. I think this match was even longer than AJ Styles and Undertaker match. They might have been about the same amount of time. I know AJ Styles Undertaker was about close to 30 minutes, but I don't think it was this long. That AJ Styles and Undertaker's Boneyard match was like close to this. I wouldn't say it was this long. This match is pretty long. You had Edge. I believe he was either from the car or from the truck or from the car that he jumped on Orton through a table. Orton started off the match actually RKOing. Edge when his music hit, as he was disguised as a cameraman. So he gave Edge two RKO's. You had them fight outside of the arena for most of the match. Orton really hit three RKO's altogether because he hit like two in the beginning of the match and he hit one of them as Edge was going for a spear. He countered to RKO as Orton was going for a blunt. Edge countered that with a spear. So you had some pretty decent spots in this matchup right here. Definitely, like I said, the match did drag on for a little too long. And I can see why some people may have got drained out with how long this match was. But the way that they ended the match, it was just perfect storytelling because Edge considered Orton as a friend, and when he grabbed the chair to hit Orton on it after after he had made Orton choke out to a submission, it was the same submission that they said that he put on MVP on Raw. He started crying, which you could obviously see that ever since Edge stepped out of the ring and got into acting, some more acting stuff like that. That has definitely improved there. And I really like the spot here. He started crying because you can see how this really was, meant a lot. Orton, and then he hit Orton with a chair, and then he wins the match. So definitely, this matchup right here, it was long and drawn out, but I still thought it was pretty good. I mean, even me myself, as I was watching this, it kept going, especially in the beginning. I was starting to wonder how long was it going to last. A lot of the times, Edge barely made it to the 10 count. Like he barely got up before the ref hit 10, or Orton barely got up before the ref hit 10. But it was mostly Edge, so it's kind of like when is it going to end? But we've seen so much. It was more of what they did outside the ring. They were fighting more outside the ring than they were in the ring. So yeah, this was definitely a long drawn out match, and some of the question becomes if it would have how different it would have been some of these matches with a crowd. With this type of match, I think after it would have ended, I think the crowd, when you move to the next match, because here's something I've always noticed with not even just WrestleMania, but even just all wrestling pay per views, is that, every time you have that one match that just kind of is drawn out and long, or if you had that 5-star match, the match that follow it is always hard to get the crowd back invested. So I think even if it was a crowd, they probably would have been pretty burnt out after this match, and they would have been a little more quiet for the next match. There still would have been a reaction, but they probably just would have been a little bit more quiet because of how long that match was. So even if it was one, I wouldn't have seen that being much different because we've seen plenty of times in WWE where, when it's a great match or even just a long match, the crowd after that match is pretty worn out. The Royal Rumble is a perfect example. You get two of those a year now. Start out with just the men's, but now you got the men's and women's. And sometimes, depending on where the placement is in the card, after the men's Rumble, the crowd is pretty burnt out. Or after the women's Rumble, and then you go to the match, the crowd's pretty burnt out. So yeah, definitely a good storytelling here. Edge picked up the victory, and it's going to be interesting to see who Edge feuds with next moving forward. So next up, we have the Street Profits versus Angel Garza and Austin Theory. Andrade was injured, so Austin Theory from NXT replaced him here. This was a pretty good match. Definitely you could tell this was kind of like the match where if it was a crowd, it'd been like a match just to get them a little bit more back into it after having such a long match. But I really love, how Monte Ford was acting the whole time. He kept saying WrestleMania, it's WrestleMania so many times. You can see how invested he was into the match. And Monte Ford, one thing I'll say about him is he has a lot of character into him. He's very charismatic. Like the man, every time he's in the ring, he's just funny to watch. And then you have his partner. Then you have his partner, Dawkins. So this was a good match between both of the teams here. Both teams, put up did pretty decent. I believe the way the match ended was Monte Ford hit a frog splash and Dawkins went for the cover. The frog splash was hit on Garza, I believe, and Monte Ford and Dawkins went for the cover. And there you go with that. They retained the Raw Tag Team Championships as they should. And this time, when Dawkins went for his move outside the ring, he actually landed on Austin Theory as opposed to what happened on Raw, where he hit the floor badly. That was crazy, but this time that did not happen. So that was nice seeing that. Really good matchup between the two teams there. Uh, so yeah, um, so there you go with that. All right, so next up you had the SmackDown Women's Tag Team match, Fatal Five Way match between Bayley, Sasha Banks, Tamina, and Bayley, Sasha Banks, Tamina, and Lacey Evans. You know, it was obvious based on what they did on SmackDown last week, where they actually had Tamina win against the women on SmackDown. You could easily tell that they were going to have her get eliminated first, and that's exactly what happened. Then it came down to Naomi, Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Lacey Evans. Naomi eventually got eliminated. Everybody had some great offense in this match. You could definitely tell what they're setting up for in the upcoming months. There's especially even looking at what happened on SmackDown, where Bayley just said, threw Sasha Banks into a match with Mina, telling Mina that if you defeat her, then you can face me for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Obviously, you can see that they're building up towards Sasha and Bayley going toe to toe again for the title down the road this month. Um, so this was just a perfect example of that because basically, I believe it was Lacey Evans, or it might have been Naomi. One of them had pushed Bailey into Sasha, and she got upset, and eventually, might have been Lacey Evans, and eventually, Lacey Evans, after Sasha had already eliminated Naomi, was going to hit the woman's right on Bailey, but she pushed her out the way, and she ended up hitting it on Sasha, and Sasha got eliminated. And then, the meeting, the one-on-one back and forth between Bailey and Lacey Evans was really good. Lacey Evans hit her moonsault from the top rope. It looked, a lot of times Lacey Evans looked as if she was going to win the title, and then Sasha eventually came back and helped Bailey retain the title. And yeah, so this was definitely a really good matchup right here, um, in my opinion. And you could just see same thing I said earlier with the Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley. The story of the match really is that, as we even seen tonight on SmackDown, it's like they're building towards Sasha and Bayley. You could just see it just in the way how this match ended, that they're building towards that. And yeah, that's definitely what they're building towards, slowly. And it wouldn't surprise me if they do that match somewhere like SummerSlam, considering the last time that these two went at it on a major pay, at a on a pay per view, was the night before SummerSlam at NXT Brooklyn. No, NXT Takeover. I believe it was um, in 2015. So yeah, and that stole the show at that time. Next up, you had the Firefly Funhouse between John Cena, Dean, Bray Wyatt. Oh man, you know, I give it to Bray here. You know, it was definitely not a match, but the whole idea, you know, I said Cena was gonna be facing his worst enemy. They had Cena go back to his ruthless aggression time. You know, a lot of references here went back to Cena's ruthless aggression time, went back to Cena's Dr. Thugonomics time. You know, Bray made a reference to Cena's ex fiance Nikki Bella when he tried to hit her. When he tried every time he tried to hit Bray Wyatt, he would be like, "You can look, but you can't touch." You know, and then they even showed pictures of Kurt Angle, but of course this time Bray was the one who was using Kurt Angle's role uh, during the time that John Cena made his debut on Raw in 2002. So definitely there was a lot of different angles here that they showed. A lot of different history things that they showed here, and it was just crazy. And the funny thing was, after all of this, you know, they showed Titus O'Neil. Like, I don't know what I just saw after he replaced the Gronk. Um, after he replaced what's his face? Uh, you know, after winning the 24/7 title early in the night. Um, so yeah, definitely, I really like how they did this here. You know, Cena. Some people had mixed reactions with this match. You know, it was entertaining to me. I thought it was good for the. I mean, really, again, it wasn't a match. It was just uh, like Bray. He even had the whole NWO thing where he was talking about Bischoff, and they showed that. So it was just so many different history things that they showed here. A lot of different references that were being made. Even Cena was fighting one of Bray Wyatt's puppets, only to see that Bray wasn't even there. And then he put Cena in the Man of a Claw and eventually won the match. So it was just so many different switches here that it was just hard to fathom everything that was going on. But yeah, man, uh, definitely for it to not be a crowd, they did this perfectly, in my opinion. You know, I do wonder how things would have been if there was one. You know how that would have played out, but I think they did it perfectly. So yeah, of course now we're seeing tonight that Bray is now about to start a feud with Braun Strowman, which very interesting how they put this all together because you knew it was going to happen, especially with Roman being out at the moment because of him, not trying to risk his health because of what's going on in the world. But I'm looking forward to this because there's definitely a lot of history between the two, and the biggest thing is that when Braun did make his debut, he was a member of the Wyatts. And I just, Bray said, I basically said he's going to destroy his own creation, destroy what he created when it came to Braun. And he tried to get off the screen and say bye, smiling, and Braun was like, before you leave, you can let me in, basically, and Bray just looks mad and he just looks furious. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. But the match, it's a pretty decent match. In the main event, for night two, Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal title. I noticed I did not mention about either of the pre-show matches because, like I said before, I don't really talk much about pre-show matches. I know there was Drew Gulak and Cesaro for night one, and for night two there was Ty and Morgan, particular one of the big there, so I think the one night one. But definitely night one had the better pre-show match, but I'm not really gonna get into that. But yeah, so with this match right here, it was really no different than it was really no different than Brock Lesnar. I mean, than Braun Strowman and Goldberg's match. It's finisher after finisher. You know, the only thing that shocked me was how quick Drew hit the Claymore so early in the match. But then after that, Brock just kept putting him in German suplexes. Then it was like three F5s that Drew kicked out of, and then Drew hit like three Claymores on Brock and eventually won the title. Even though we recently learned on Raw that that actually didn't main event because the Big Show about 20 minutes after Drew won the match comes out and challenges Drew for the WWE Championship, which was like the 7,000 heel turn for the Big Show. And he picks up the win here. He wins to get the Big Show. And a lot of times in the match, though, Big Show actually had me. It was obvious he wasn't going to win. He had me thinking he was going to win the match. A couple of the near falls, the choke slam he gave to the McIntyre, the chops on the chest he gave to McIntyre. He had a lot of the offense in the match. Drew eventually managed to hit him with the Claymore and pick up the win. He even managed to pick up Big Show and do like a slam on him, like a body slam on him. So, yeah, a lot of people were saying that the whole reason the Big Show came out was to promote his show. But yeah, I mean, I guess you can say that that basically Drew main evented two different matches in one night, which I don't think that's ever happened in history. Actually, it's the first time in history. Well, no, I'm not going to say that because at WrestleMania 9, right after Yokozuna defeated Bret Hart, that's when he put his title on the line against Hulk Hogan. This is actually not the first time this happened. But I would say this is the first time that the champion, the person who won the title, actually retained the title in the same night that they won it. I think that's the first time that has happened, but this is not the first time that the WWE Championship, was defended twice in the same night. This isn't the first time that happened. This actually happened in a couple of occasions, even in at WrestleMania 10. I think the way they did that because you had Lex Luger and Bret Hart, who both won the Rumble that year. They had Lex Luger face Yokozuna first, and then later on the night it was Yokozuna and Bret Hart. And of course, Bret Hart won the title. So it's happened more than once, but I think this is the first time that the person who won the title, because for that particular case, Yokozuna was a champion, and then he retained it, and then he lost it. I think this is the first time the person who won it actually retained it in the same night. So that was pretty interesting there. So yeah, overall, for me, I would say, this WrestleMania, given the circumstances that was going on, I appreciate them doing this. Definitely, I know a lot of people were saying that they should have postponed it, but considering we don't even know when all this is going to be back to normal, I could kind of understand why they still went forward and things like that. My personal favorite matches, because I'm going to try to not sound like everybody else in this particular mix. Um, here's my matches. The ladder match with Morrison, Kofi Kingston, the Usos. I definitely enjoyed that match. I thought that match for night one was an incredible match. Um, Also, you know, I thought that I also thought that Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens match was great, a really good matchup there. I thought it was kind of like the match of the night, Edge and Orton. I like that match. it was long and drawn out. It was really great storytelling. AJ Styles and The Undertaker. I like how they did that Boneyard match. You know, Cena and Bray. Good stuff right there. Um, let's see. I did think that Charlotte and Rhea Ripley was actually a decent match. Not a fan of Charlotte Well, obviously, but I did think that the match itself wasn't actually bad. But I'm not a fan of her winning. Just like the whole Becky thing either. Um, so I probably would have to say that those would be my matches, which is kind of a lot of the matches on the card. But I would have to say that those are definitely my matches. I mean, I actually like the SmackDown Women's title match, to be honest. And I thought that the women's tag team match, which the only thing that's sad to me is that I thought that was a pretty decent opener. I think off the show for night one. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, for me. And yeah, next video probably, I don't know. We shall see. Be safe. Sign off. The rest of